And within 10 minutes of my first class, he shouted at me. Like, literally, my driving fee was more than my rent. I think your mock test went well. You have a lot of potential to crash, maybe he meant. I'm just gonna show him, my skills, and I'm gonna do the drifting and I'm gonna impress him. While I was driving into the center, I almost banged the car onto the pole. I was just sweating. I was sweating. I was so nervous. It felt like I'm gonna defuse a bomb in this Ford Puma. And I started crying. Like, I was waiting for this moment for half an hour. Like, it was the longest fucking time where I held my tears successfully. And I've been wearing those L loser learner plate like a crown in front of my car and two on the back of my car from past 200 days, and I still managed to fail the driving test. This failure, another failure, another failure, another failure is coming in my life. But when is my redemption arc coming? When is it? Hi everyone, my name is Kirti and welcome to a tutorial 101 on how to fail your driving test in the UK. I failed my driving test within 5 minutes going into it. I failed my driving test faster than I could say mirror, signal, maneuver. I'm not even kidding. So this all started 3 years ago in 2022. It's not that I just decided to give my driving test and I failed it. I literally prepared for my road to failure. Like in 2022, I sat for the written test, and by the way, I also failed that for the first time, and then the second time I cleared it. And then for 2 years, from it took me like 1 year to clear the theory test. It's not very difficult. It's very easy. The UK theory driving test is very easy. It's just that I'm dumb. It took me second time to clear that exam, because the first time I forgot about my exam and I didn't study. Like, I'm not that dumb. I am dumb, but not that dumb. So then I passed that, and you have 2 years from the exam to clear your driving test. And I was just procrastinating to give my uh, practical test for 1 year. And then last year, I decided that I'm gonna give my UK physical driving test, and I'm gonna pass it before I turn 30. That was my goal. And by the way, I turned 30 last year, September. If you haven't seen the last video where I'm telling you about the beautiful things about turning 30 and blah blah blah, please go and watch that video. But anyways, so I thought I'm gonna pass my driving test and I'm gonna get the driving license before I turn 30. And that was my target, by the way. And September was when I was turning 30. And in May or something, I started learning driving. I know how to drive. I've been knowing how to drive since I was 15, 16. But then when I was like 18, 19 or something, in India, I crashed it, or I had a kind of accident, and since then I haven't driven. So I had like kind of a fear of driving since then. And it's not even just fear, but I haven't had the practice for 10 years. So I thought I'm going to learn it here, because anyways, it's different from driving in India to driving here. By the way, now I drive in India, so I know how to drive. Like the basic mirror signal, I don't know, but I know how to maneuver. Then I decided, yeah, I'm gonna book the instructor. I went to the internet and looked for the reviews, and I booked one instructor, and it was my first class. I was really nervous. I didn't know how they're gonna teach, because I haven't learned driving in the UK. But anyways, I went there, and the instructor, by the way, it was a class for 1 hour and 30 minutes. It was my first class, and within 10 minutes of my first class, he shouted at me. So I went for the class, and he was like, "Oh, which car are you going to be learning?" And I told him on the phone, "It's like manual." And he's like, "Why manual? Why do you?" And then he was just trying to convince me for the automatic, because I think uh, the the charges for teaching for automatic is higher. Whatever. I'm like, I want to learn manual, so teach me manual. And then he was like, "Okay." And then he didn't tell me anything. He's like, "Have you driven before?" I'm like, "Yes." But I thought, like, if you go for the lesson, it's my first lesson, he's gonna tell me things, or he's gonna tell me how to do things. Inside the car I know, but outside I have no clue. Though I have passed the theory test, but I'm dumb. I forgot about it. It was 1 year ago. Even if I would have given it just then, still I don't remember. Who remembers things from the theory when they do the practical? Nobody. At least not me. And then within 10 minutes, we had to take, it was a giveaway lines, and I didn't know by then that I had to wait at the giveaway lines. I just drove. And then I put in the second gear or something, and he shouted like, "I don't know, why did you put on the second gear?" And then we stopped, and I'm panicking. He just shouted at me, and then I just froze for a second. In my head is like, I want to go home. I want to go home. But outside, I'm like, yes. And then he was like, "I didn't know, why did you put in the gear two and this?" And then I was like, I don't know. You tell me. You're the instructor. You're supposed to guide me. You're supposed to tell me anything. You've just like sat on the passenger seat, being the passenger princess, and like you just drive for 1 hour and 30 minutes. And by the way, all this I said inside my head. Outside, I was like, I don't know. I thought I should. I was supposed to put on the second gear. I don't know. I just got confused and then within 10 minutes, I just checked out about the thing that I'm supposed to learn driving. I checked out within 10 minutes. Rest of the 1 minutes and 1 hour and 10 minutes, I was just inside my head. I want to go home. I want to go home. Hopefully, this time finishes quickly. I want to go home. Why this misery is not ending? And my tears were like here, like almost here. And then the class ended. I paid the person. He was like, just let me know when you want to have the second class. And my head is like, you wish you're gonna see me again. But then I went back home, I cried, and then I was like, I cannot do this. This is not for me. I cannot do this. But then also, I had the kind of realization, it's not just me, it's the instructor. I need to book another instructor. This instructor was not good. And apart from like his instructing or teaching style, I couldn't understand his accent. It was also difficult for me because I think he was Turkish. So he didn't, like, he had a very heavy accent, which was very difficult for me to understand. So I decided I'm not going to continue with this person. I'm going to find another instructor. And then after browsing, I again found another instructor. His name is John, by the way. He's a very important person for our story. He's the person who literally taught me how to drive, or apparently how to fail the driving test. No, he's a really good instructor. Whatever I failed my driving test is not his fault, it's my fault. I'm the culprit here, not him. But anyways, I found John. I booked classes with him, and every time I decided the minimum, like, you could take classes was for 1 hour. So I'm like, I'm gonna take 1 hour. I cannot tolerate more than 1 hour. It's just too much. Like even 1 hour for me and having my attention on the road, like my concentration for full time is too much. So 1 hour, I decided I'm gonna book it. And the second class I went with him, it was also difficult because I just cannot concentrate more than 5 minutes or more than 1 minute. So it's always difficult for me to be there 1 hour constantly focusing on the road. But it was my fault, like not the instructor fault this time, because this time when I went with him for the first time, he taught me everything. Like he's like, have you driven here before? I told him no, it's my first time. And then he explained me everything, and then it was all going fine. I was learning. I was taking 2 or 3 classes a week, and I was doing well with John. Like I was liking him. He was just a bit sarcastic, like, because maybe he is a bit, but then it's more because of me, because even after teaching for a couple of weeks, he's like, okay, whenever you're ready, off we go. And I'm like, my handbrake is still on and I'm just accelerating. And he's like, oh, let me just tell you again, whenever you're ready, off we go, without the handbrake, because I need to tell you everything, otherwise you don't do things. And I'm like, yes, sir, you need to tell me everything. And then he started instructing everything. And he realized I am a human being, almost 30 years old, and I'm doing a PhD, but I'm dumb. Like, he feels like he keeps on telling me things 10 times and I still don't do it. It means I'm dumb. But I could be. But my problem is that I know what he's telling me. It's just that I don't remember it at the moment. Is it the same thing? I don't know. But it took a lot of time for him to even teach me to drive it on the road inside safely. He's always on his toes when I'm driving, and it was very difficult. Then I started my journey of actually learning driving very slowly, because I'm a slow person. Like, I'm slow. And then it took us all May, June, July, September. I turned 30. I couldn't appear for the exam because John said I'm not ready. And it didn't even take like John to say that. I knew I wasn't ready. Like, forget about going to an exam and facing an examiner. I'm not even ready to drive alone for 5 minutes. Like, I'm in hazard on the road. I'm yet not not hazard like on the road. My definition of being ready was when I could drive at least 5 minutes alone in my head, and I feel like I'm gonna be safe and rest of the world is gonna be safe. I'm not worried about me, but there are people on the roads. I don't want to kill anybody and go to jail. So it was very slow, and it took us September, October, like entire year. And then in the March, we were like, oh, I have the test. And I told him, because it just took almost a year and it's expensive. For 1 hour, I was paying £40. So it's like I'm paying a lot of money. Like lost, I wouldn't say lost, but I've like invested in learning driving a lot of money. Like literally, my driving fee was more than my rent. So which says something. So I was like, I cannot keep on losing this money. This is too much. It's my time and money. And additionally, the stress. I cannot do this. In March, I was like, I'm just gonna give the test. Whether I pass or fail, I don't care. I'm just gonna appear for the test. And then in March, we booked the test. I did a lot of classes in that month, and I'm like, I don't care about the money. Let's just put all the money, put all the eggs in one basket. It didn't even like fit the same here, but whatever. And then I went for the test. Then we came very close to my driving test day. We doubled down on my practice. We did a lot of lesson. We did a mock test, and after the mock test, John was like, I think your mock test went well. You have a lot of potential to crash, maybe he meant, but he didn't have much confidence in me. But he was like, we're going to give all and you're going to pass. He was like trying to motivate me at that time, which I could also feel that he didn't have much trust in me. He's just trying to motivate me, but I was also doing the same. I didn't have much trust in me, but I was like, I'm going to motivate the shit out of me and I'm going to pass this driving test. Manifestation. I'm going to manifest that I'm going to pass the test. And then came the driving test. I woke up, took the shower, got ready. I'm like, I'm gonna be fine, I'm gonna be fine. And when we reached to the driving test center, while I was driving into the center, I almost banged the car onto the pole. And John was like, oh, what are you doing? And from then on, I was just sweating. I was sweating. I was so nervous. It felt like I'm going to defuse a bomb in this Ford Puma. And I was like, before the test, I was so nervous. Like, I couldn't wait. I was like, I wanted to pee. And then we met the examiner, and he kind of looked terrifying. He kind of looked like a guy who's going to fail me. But I was still like, I don't care. I'm just going to show him, my skills, and I'm going to do the drifting and I'm going to impress him. No, I didn't think like like that. I wasn't that dumb, but I was like, I'm gonna show him I'm a nice driver. I can do this. And we started a driving test. He was like, okay, take outside the driving center, and I was so nervous. It was 2:45 or 2:35. I think my test was on. It was a peak hour. Everybody was coming out of the school. All the kids were here and there, running around the street, and I was so nervous. I felt like I'm gonna kill somebody in this driving test, but I was like, okay. In the beginning, he was like, we're gonna do the set nav, and I haven't practiced much with the sat nav, but I was like, okay, fine, I can do this. I was doing fine. Within 2 minutes, we went inside the cars, and there were a lot of parked cars on both the side of the street, and it was very narrow lane. And there was an oncoming car, and I thought I'm gonna give him a way and impress my instructor. And in order to give him a way, there was a car parked here. I just went like this. I steered so much that I there was a there was 100% potential of hitting the rear of my instructor's car to that car. And then the instructor just did the hard brake. Sorry, the examiner did the hard brake. And if the examiner need to do the hard brake, it means I failed. Like, there is no other way that I could convince myself that I haven't failed within 2 minutes of my driving test. But anyways, as John told me, even if you do a minor, just think, even if you do a major, think in your head, it's a minor, it's a minor, it's a minor, and just give your test that way. I knew I failed within 2 minutes, but I still performed entire 40 minutes of driving test. And it was the most awful time of my life, like one of the shittiest, because in my heart I knew I failed, but I still had to put on this show of doing the test. And in my head I was like, this stupid examiner just tell me I failed and I can just run back to my home and cry. Don't do this pretension. But then we had to do this, and I did the perfect parallel parking into my on my test. I did everything perfectly. We had to do the security brake, like the safety brake. I did that also perfectly. I did everything fine. I think just one minor also after that. But we went inside the center after 35 minutes of this acting performative classes, like the theatrics we did for 40 minutes. We went back to the test center, and finally when we went back to the test center, he was like, oh, I'm going to give the review in from John. And I understood why would he want to tell John, because he just want to tell that I fucked up. And he saved John's car. He just wanted to be good in front of the John. But anyways, we went there, and John had a neutral face. He didn't know what he was about to say, or maybe he knew, he was just playing dumb in front of me. Then the examiner started. Yeah, she was driving fine, it was everything fine. At the end, she did parking fine. But in the beginning, like, he told everything, and then he was like, in the beginning she did this thing, this steering, it's a steering major, and she failed the test. All the best for the next time. And he moved. That all the best for the next time was really savage, and he moved, and my heart just sank, because I knew it was a major until he said it, because I was still hoping, maybe, 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 maybe. But then maybe, and all my hopes came down crushing at that time. And then me and John, we both speak a lot, all the time. And that was the only time we both were silent. We didn't know what to say. And even he didn't know what to say at this situation, because he realized that I'm about to cry. And he told me stories about people crying after the test, and he felt really awkward about it. So I was like, I'm not going to cry here. But when he told me the stories about people crying, was the happy cry, because they passed the test and they were crying out of joy. And he told me like a couple of times, that happened. There was this guy and there was this girl, and they passed the test and they cried, and I didn't know what to do. But I was also about to cry, but it's going to be a bad cry, and my bad cry is horrible cry. But I was like, I'm not going to put John through this misery, and I'm going to just shut all my emotions and not speak and not try to think about it, and just going to go home and cry. And that 1 kilometer from the test center to my home was the longest drive ever. And then he drove me, and then he was like, I'm so sorry about it. And then I'm like, oh, it's my fault, and blah blah blah. And we just had that formal talk, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be doing practice now. I'm just gonna take a break, and then maybe I can contact you whenever I can find the new test date. And I just said like whatever, and then I just almost started running back to my home. And then he was like, Kirti. And I was like, I was almost in tears, and my tears were like here. And I was like, yeah, John, what happened? He's like, my car keys. I had his car keys into my bag. And then I was like, yeah, John, sorry, I'm so sorry about it. And then I gave him the car keys, and then I started crying. And I'm like, now, even if he says Kirti and somebody stops me, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to cry. I went back home, and I started crying. Like, I was waiting for this moment for half an hour. Like, it was the longest fucking time where I held my tears successfully. And I cried for the entire day. And I'm not somebody that cries like, and there are some tears. I shout. And I'm so sorry for my neighbors. Like, they might be listening me. That I do this once a week or once in 15 days. I cry where I'm shouting for hours and hours. And I'm so sorry that I put these people through this misery. But anyways, I cried the entire day, and then nothing happened. I just failed the driving test. Yeah, so this was the entire story of how I failed my UK driving test. But I'm so proud of myself since I've been learning the driving or during the test. I haven't hit anybody. So I count that as a win. I'm a winner, not a failure. Oh, by the way, all those 9 months, I haven't just been learning from John's car, like from my instructor's car that I've been paying him, but I have like unpaid instructor also. I've been learning from my car as well, and which we do like almost every other day. So it's like I've been driving for 200 days and still failed my test. And I've been wearing those L loser learner plate like a crown in front of my car and two on the back of my car from past 200 days, and I still managed to fail the driving test. I'm just so surprised. Like, I thought like I've grown so much old. I cannot surprise myself more, but every day I do surprise myself. Yeah, so this was another failure in my life. I'm literally waiting for my redemption arc. There is failure, another failure, another failure, another failure is coming in my life. But when is my redemption arc coming? When is it?